So following on from my last video, I spoke briefly about how you can get involved in open source. I didn't go into details in that video, but in this one, I'll follow up and give you more detail. Yet again, I'm going to try and keep my videos as short as possible and try to keep them to not take up much of your time because, as I said, I think your time is valuable and I don't want to take up a lot of your time. How to get into open source. There's many ways you can get into open source, right? I mean, there's no doorway or specific way that you have to move or approach a project in order to get into open source. Open source is for everyone, right? It's for every and anyone, right? I'm not going to explain what open source is because there's lots of videos on the internet showing what open source is, or you can read up on it. So in this video, I won't be explaining what that is. You can find a video on YouTube about what open source is if you don't know already. So there are many open source projects out there. And you might be looking at your favorite, JavaScript framework that you use, or your favorite design tool that you use, or a plugin, or something for an application that you're using. There's many things that are available in the open source market, right? And I guess the way I'd go about to approach any of these markets or any of these tools is to choose something that I'm already using in a project or that I'm using in my own personal work, in my own free time, or something that I'm interested in. I wouldn't just jump on any open source project and just start saying, hey, I want to contribute without understanding the project. So it'd have to be something that I've been using in my own personal code or from my personal experience. So, there's many ways that you can contribute. You can either write blog posts. If you're not a person who's into writing blog posts or writing long form content, you can write like tips, just tips on how to do certain things in this particular tool or this particular open source project that you're interested in. You can write tips about, just about anything. Maybe you found out that it's a lot more easier to do so. For instance, let's use Visual Studio Code for example, right? You might have just found out that Control D or Command D on a Mac will select multiple occurrences of an item in the code, right? So you could, write something on a blog about that. Write something even on Twitter. You could just tweet it that this little snippet you've learned. You would have contributed to open source that way. I mean, it doesn't mean that you'll get any sort of recognition on the project for it, but I don't think that's the main goal or reason to contribute to open source. Because I think for me, the point of open source is for someone else to be able to learn from something that I've done, or it's sharing knowledge, it's sharing code, it's sharing things that we used to have to pay for, right? I mean, these things you can still pay for, but now with the philosophy of open source where it's available freely to use, why not? So there is a lot of things you can write about. You can maybe create a little short video like I'm doing now. Maybe it'd be about some sort of open source code. There's many different things you can do. You could probably report a bug. Maybe you found a bug in the open source project you're using. Maybe it's just a small bug, but you can open up an issue on GitHub to say, hey, there's this bug. You can also fix typo in the documentation, right? But make sure that whatever typo you're fixing, try and find as many as possible, not just create a commit per typo. I mean, people who maintain open source projects, they're busy. They can't be reviewing every single pull request that comes, right? The other way you can go about getting into open source or contributing to open source project is create your own. Maybe there's no projects that you're interested in or that you want to get involved in, so create your own. Maybe one of your own little personal projects that you have on your computer that you've used in different commercial projects that you've worked on, you think it'll be useful for others to have, to use, or to improve upon. then share that. Share that with the world, you know. Release it as an open source project. And there you go, you have your own little open source project that you can get people to work on with you. Because the idea behind it is that you'll be sharing knowledge, you'll be gaining more knowledge, you know, and it'll be a fun thing to be doing while you're looking for a job. I mean, to be honest, open source can be a bit tedious after a while. If the project becomes very popular, it can become tedious. It can become, it's now a second job onto your other job that you might have, your main job. So in a way, think about it before actually doing it. And if you actually want to do it, then yeah, I mean, find friends to even do it with. I'm a part of a community called Dev Congress here in Ghana, and we created a bunch of open source projects that we use in our Slack, right? We have a Slack bot that we created, and I was the one who initially created it, but I've had other people contribute to it. So why not do that? Yeah, so there you go. How to get involved in open source, how to get started. I mean, you can also reach out to the author of the tool or library that you're using. Maybe they're overwhelmed by the amount of pull requests they're getting. So you can just ask them, hey, you want me to help you to, you know, manage these pull requests, or, you know, you want me to help with issues that I see popping up on GitHub that people have opened. You know, there's many different avenues. There's no one way of getting involved in open source. And there you have it. That's my take on how to get involved into open source. Hey, I hope you enjoy, and look forward to why can't I get my words out? Look forward for more to come. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So yeah, later. Have a good day. Enjoy on yourself. Something for now. Peace.